Billionaire sees his childhood friend struggling as a nurse. What he does next leaves everyone in tears. The reunion. Ethan Carter stepped out of his sleek black town car, adjusting the cufflinks on his $1,000 suit. The hospital in front of him was a stark contrast to the world he now lived in: high-rise penthouses, boardroom meetings, and exclusive galas. He hadn't been inside a hospital in years. But today, he had a reason. His mother had fallen ill, and despite his wealth, she insisted on being treated at the same community hospital where she had worked as a nurse for 30 years. "Money can't buy care, son," she had said, her frail hand resting on his. "It comes from the heart." As he walked through the busy corridors, past the hurried nurses and beeping machines, a voice stopped him in his tracks. "Ethan." He turned, locking eyes with someone he hadn't seen in over 2 decades. The years had changed her, but there was no mistaking the warmth in those tired brown eyes. "Emma." His voice was laced with disbelief. Emma Lawson had been his best friend growing up. They had shared peanut butter sandwiches on the school steps, dreamed of traveling the world, and made pinky promises to always look out for each other. But life had taken them in different directions. Ethan had gone on to build a business empire, making billions in tech, while Emma had chosen a different path, one that led her here, wearing scrubs, with dark circles under her eyes and exhaustion in every movement. "You work here?" he asked. She laughed softly. "I practically live here." A glimpse into her world. Ethan watched as Emma rushed between patients, holding hands, offering reassurances, and pushing through the grueling 12-hour shift as if it were a calling rather than a job. He saw the way her face lit up when an elderly patient squeezed her hand in gratitude and how she fought back tears when a young boy cried out in pain. But he also noticed something else: the frustration in her eyes when she checked her paycheck, the way she stretched a sandwich from home across her entire shift, and the way she hesitated before swiping her card at the vending machine, counting every penny. She was drowning, and no one seemed to notice. The decision. That night, Ethan sat in his penthouse, unable to shake what he had seen. He had spent his life building wealth, but what good was it if people like Emma, who gave everything for others, had so little? The next morning, he returned to the hospital, this time with a plan. Emma was finishing her shift when she saw him standing by the entrance, a small envelope in his hand. "What's this?" she asked. "A thank you," he said simply. She opened it, expecting maybe a gift card or a note. Instead, her breath caught in her throat. It was a check, large enough to pay off her debts, buy a home, and finally take the vacation she had dreamed of for years. "Ethan, I can't," she started, shaking her head. "You can," he interrupted. "Because the world needs people like you. And if I can make your life even a little easier, then it's the best investment I'll ever make." Tears filled her eyes, but Ethan wasn't done yet. Over the next few weeks, something incredible happened. Ethan launched a foundation dedicated to supporting nurses across the country, increasing wages, offering scholarships, and ensuring that no nurse would ever have to struggle the way Emma had. The media called it the most generous act of his career. But to Ethan, it wasn't about headlines. It was about keeping a promise, a pinky promise made between 2 kids all those years ago. The legacy of kindness. Months later, Emma stood on stage at a fundraiser for the foundation, looking out at the audience filled with nurses whose lives had changed because of Ethan's kindness. "People think heroes wear capes," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "But I see them every day, in scrubs and sneakers, working through exhaustion to save lives." Ethan reminded the world that they matter. In the front row, Ethan smiled, knowing that for the first time in his life, his wealth had truly meant something. And as the applause filled the room, he realized, this wasn't just about giving. It was about honoring the ones who give everything.